And so Patrick Soon-Shiong built up his fortune by building out pharmaceutical companies and then selling them on. And this is how he's been able to amass this fortune. And now he's back at it again, this time with ImmunityBio. If we examine ImmunityBio's pipeline, we can see all the treatments in development right here. And we can see here that this one, bladder cancer, Quilt 3.032, has already been approved by the FDA, which you can see on the right-hand side of your screen. We can see that Q2 2025 revenue growth with continued strong sales momentum of 26.4 million, up 60% from Q1 in 2025, with year-to-date sales of approximately $43 million. And this is as a direct result of the sales from this bladder cancer treatment that I mentioned earlier, which is ImmunityBio's first commercially viable product that was approved on the 24th of April 2024. And this section is also critical to take note of, which is that ANKTIVA unit growth since the introduction of J-codes, their unit sales are up 246% in the first half of 2025 compared to the second half of 2024. And so it's important to know that, they've experienced a 246% increase in sales of this product that I mentioned, the first approved treatment, because of the introduction of J-codes. And so J-codes are used by the US healthcare providers to bill Medicare insurance for injectable drugs. Once a J-code is actually issued to a doctor, it's easier for doctors to prescribe and actually get their money back. Doctors are adopting ANKTIVA faster than ever before because of the adoption of J-codes, which is why we've experienced this 246% increase in sales in the first half of 2025 compared to last year of 2024. And so the main catalyst coming up with this stock will actually be around improved and increased sales since the implementation of these J-codes for the ImmunityBio's first approved treatment. One really important thing to note about this treatment is it's only actually been approved for carcinoma in situ, so this indication right here. And ImmunityBio are actually still in discussion with the FDA to have it approved for papillary. Now, one of the really important things to consider is that the patient pool for this indication, the papillary, is actually 3 to 4 times the market size of carcinoma in situ. It has the potential to multiply the addressable market size several fold, from currently around 1 billion globally with the current approval to potentially up to 3 to 5 billion globally. And they're in conversations with the FDA at the moment to figure out how they can do this. They received a Type A meeting. You can see right here it states papillary NMIBC. ImmunityBio conducted a Type A meeting with the FDA in June 2025 to discuss its program targeting papillary-only non-muscle invasive bladder cancer and the FDA's response to the supplemental BLA filing. Contrary to the advice the FDA gave to the company in January 2025 to submit the BLA, the FDA responded with a refuse to file notice in May 2025 on the basis of requiring a randomized controlled trial against chemotherapy. And so effectively the FDA have come back to ImmunityBio saying that the application didn't meet the FDA's filing standards. And so now ImmunityBio are seeking a new meeting with the FDA. You can see here the company indicated at the meeting that it would seek a new meeting request with this new data and withdraw its prior BLA filing. And currently ImmunityBio are re-evaluating this approach in consultation with its regulatory council and may seek to amend the initial filing with the new data rather than withdrawing it. And so as you can see, ImmunityBio are in a process of discussion and deliberation with the FDA after the refuse to file issued by the FDA. I think it may have something to do with the situation that was taking place with Vinny Prasad. And so I think it was around that situation there where there was a lot of uncertainty at the FDA, which comes back to this point here that you can see where ImmunityBio actually state that contrary to the advice that the FDA gave to the company in January 2025. And this again is just a change of ethos taking place at the FDA at the moment with Vinny Prasad, with a number of others, which is why we've had this kind of period of uncertainty and this back and forth which has been taking place with ImmunityBio at the moment, and the refuse to file as well. And so right now there's a level of uncertainty, there are no clear dates as to the next steps. There's this discussion between the two parties, ImmunityBio and the FDA, regarding the type of data that the FDA may want for this trial. And so with this right now, it's very much just a waiting game. It's very much just waiting to hear back from ImmunityBio, the feedback that they get from the FDA, which they will then in turn communicate with shareholders as well. ImmunityBio is trading at what I consider to be a very reasonable price at the moment, simply purely when you look at the pipeline, you look at the developments here, you look at the ambition, you look at the leadership of the company as well. On one hand, this is very much to do with what's happened with the FDA recently, the uncertainty around this treatment and potential approval. And then on top of that, it's also because ImmunityBio announces execution of 80 million equity financing from multiple institutional investors. And so with this dilution, naturally, we've seen the share price decline. Sentiment with the stock is poor. And with me, when I'm investing in biotech, if I'm looking at solid leadership, if I'm looking at a pipeline which is very ambitious, which is game-changing, with strong leadership, with a proven track record, I see these dilutions as an opportunity to get in, with view of the potential catalysts that are coming up in the future with this stock. And so the main catalyst with this stock is around the treatment that's been approved, which I mentioned earlier. We've already experienced these great sales metric, the 246% increase of unit sales volume growth in the first half of 2025 compared to the second half of 2024. And I only see this increasing as they expand and get greater reach and reach more patients with this product. But back to the pipeline, the other major catalyst to pay attention to is around the lung cancer treatment here, which you can see. We can see that it's in phase 3. Very promising, but the company hasn't really provided any updates with regards to when they might be submitting a BLA for this treatment. And so again, it's very much a question of watch this space, waiting for news from ImmunityBio in press releases with regards to an update. But this is very much when I make entries into a stock or make moves in the stock market, is way before any catalysts are coming up, at a period of time where sentiment is poor, when there is potentially a level of friction with the company as well, which is what ImmunityBio experiencing right now with this dilution, with this refuse to file and this deliberation and discussion with the FDA at the moment. On top of that, the lung cancer phase 3 trial represents massive upside opportunity if the results that come back are positive. And the share price languishing in and around just over $2 because of this recent dilution and because of the back and forth and the uncertainty with discussions where the FDA have kind of moved the parameters forward a little bit more. I don't necessarily see it as uncertainty. I see it more as an opportunity because the sentiment is poor, but they do have positives coming forward in the future. And so like I said, this is typically the kind of time where I might start lining up and potentially loading up on a stock, simply because I see some catalysts coming up within the next year which I can potentially capitalize on as well. But fundamentally, we're talking about Patrick Soon-Shiong here. He has an incredible track record. He has high inside ownership of this stock, both personally and through a number of entities that you can see right here. And he has a solid track record of successfully bringing biotech innovation to the marketplace, which adds to the credibility of ImmunityBio and its long-term potential.